It's 21st century and we still live in the world where FGM exists, where human trafficking exists, where women still have no rights and no voices like in Afghanistan, where women are forced to marry someone who their parents chose for them. We still live in all of this chaos, and this is actually results of many different kinds of decisions and unbalanced energy dynamics in the past. So all of this craziness and what is going on right now, you already know, and there are a lot of good research about that already done. What I decided to do, like what this video is about, I was interested to look into the beginning, like where it's all started to form, why it's actually is going on so wrong and so unbalanced, because feminine and masculine energies obviously is in huge disbalanced state. We're not talking about genders here. I'm talking about specifically energies which is in each of us. Feminine and masculine both are in each of us. And we as a society, as a collective representation of what is going on the inner world with all of us. And the thing is that I decided to talk not from the like official perspective, like where women sit in a cave, a man is hunting, or stuff like that. We are going to speak in the first part about the lost civilizations like Lemuria and Atlantis, like why they actually fell. Also, I want to talk in the second part specifically about the masculine energy, the essence of it, how it forms, how it transcends. Like maybe we need more awareness on the subject so we would grow in this direction, like maybe more healthy, or when we are communicating with our children, we are helping them to build more healthy masculine energy. In the third part, I will slightly touch the symbols and mythology, which are important to know and understand in this subject, because it opens, some important things which you might never heard, and I find really interesting to share with you. And in the last part, it's a conclusion of what we actually can do to build more healthy society and to be more balanced. And overall, I will touch another star systems. As I'm an astrologer, and I love astrology. I love how it actually influences us. And I understand that our solar system is not like, flying randomly here in space. And it's interacting with another systems. And we have influence from another systems. And influence from another civilizations. All the sources which I will use, I will name them in the moment of some specific fact, and the list of them you will see all in the first comment. I will put all that there. Also, it's mainly some channeled messages from some entities who are on another levels of consciousness. It's your choice to trust it or not trust. I choose to trust because I trust myself. This is how I navigate in life. And so if I find it useful and interesting, I'm not claiming that this is the only right vision, this is the only truth. I'm sharing with you what I think could be interesting for us as humans to know in this specific subject. And we will go into a lot of details, so I would not recommend you to watch if you're, for example, driving. So that's not going to be productive for you. Okay, so I want to start from this. We know there's saying that soul lives inside of the body. And in one of the latest interviews, Daryl Anka, the one who channels Bashar, and I will put the link on this interview just in the first comment, he said that he was asked about the soul, and he explained it this way, that the soul is literally like the ball of energy, and it's kind of wide, and then when it wants to go through some specific experience in the incarnation, it decides to, for example, choose specific patterns to go through the incarnation, and it squeezes itself, like it contracts to become like a density, so dense point, and this is how we have a material life. Like this is who we are when then the soul become dense, and so it become dense. We are living our human life experience. Then it's again like the human life ends, and so we again like this, and then again we're doing some another like choices about which experiences we want to go through to expand like evolutionary as the consciousness in that direction. So this is basically such a kind of like bracing process. And what I liked about it, because in the book The Law of One, written by 3 American guys in 80s, they found a way how to channel the entity called Ra, and those Ra which you can meet in Egyptian mythology, and I will talk a little bit later about particularly this thing. But right now I want to say that Ra explained in that book the creation of the universe, that like what we know about the creations like Big Bang, that this is actually is one of the cycle, it's like one of the exhale of that, and it's going to be inhale and exhale. It's like a breathing of the creation. And so when we understand it like as without so below, we can think from the perspective of creation of the universe, like why it creates let's say different systems or galaxies or planets like us, like ours. And when we realize that when human on the soul level, like when the soul on this level finds like among many possibilities that specific experiences which it wants to go through, it takes some specific patterns in their already existed consciousness, and then it becomes dense, and then we incarnate. So the same way on the universal level, consciousness, like in order to experience itself and to evolve, it needs to kind of fracturize on different galaxies, different planetary systems, on planets. I mean, it's like different particles, and so it becomes dense, and then life starts to evolve. And so when life evolves this way, we can see that there is like first level of dense consciousness. This is the elements, different like simple elements from which life can be created. Then like minerals, you don't like different things like that. The second density is actually when elements start to go together and some like life is built. So it's plants, it's animals. The third density, it's when this second like level density, the consciousness of the second level, starts to be aware of itself. And this is how third density happens to be. And it means that on the third level, we start to realize like this is me, this is them. Something like illusion of separation is present here. Also, we are learning by different experiences, relationships, hardship. We are understanding our own power. We understand that I'm doing this, so I get consequences. If I'm doing stuff like this, so it can lead me to that result, so something like that. When we are choosing, for example, to be kind to someone, we start to feel, wow, it feels good, you know? And when we are doing something bad, it feels not good. We start to use our senses, our brain, our different system consciously and choose something for ourselves. And on the third level, it's quite chaotic because we are basically learning to be who we really are. And the next density after the third goes fourth density. This is what's so-called like the Christ consciousness, because Christ, according to this book, The Law of One, Ra told that he was on the fourth density. He could go like further ahead on the fifth, like to experience another levels of interaction with another creatures, but he chose to come back to the third density, having the soul of the fourth density consciousness to come to help. And all of his paths and teachings, like the kindness, the level of harmony he produced, that was his way of helping humans to evolve. And also what we know about the fourth density is this is a level where we are being like telepathical. We don't need to speak. We don't need to force ourselves to something, because everything is very in harmony with each other. And Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, was asked by people many times while he was in channeling mode, how Bashar lives, like directly to Bashar, how he lives on his planet, like how everything is going on over there. And he said that they don't have government, they don't have time, so they don't need to kind of meet an exact time, like to deal it, to have some kind of control about it, because everyone is so interconnected on the telepathical levels that everyone is where they need to be at the right moment. And so it's like also heart center is connected to trust, because when we are on the fourth density, we're deeply in love with life, with all other creatures, with harmony, with everyone, with every race, every form of existence. Everything flows really easy. They almost don't eat, they almost don't sleep, as he explains. And I believe that this is because we need sleep and eat and food, because we need to gain energy. Because a lot of energy is wasted on different kinds of blockages, resistance, fears, insecurities, complexity of relationship with different people. I mean, we take care about our bills, we need to worry about our health, about our close people, and so on and so on. So energy is not wasted on that. So obviously, on the fourth density, the creature just does not need to have more material experiences, and this is why it opened the gate to the fifth density. As Bashar says, they are now on the level of like slowly transitioning from fourth to fifth density. And fifth density is when you are something like balance between love and wisdom. So it's all material, like karmic relationships, all kinds of lessons around attachment to your body, about somebody's opinions, all of the things which we are struggling with. All of the material kind of lessons, they are done on the fourth density. So you gain the level of complete harmony with everyone and everything. You don't need, so you're like on the on the evolutional level of the consciousness at this point, there is no need in matter anymore. That's why existence starts at the fifth density. And so what is going next? And next, we don't need it right now. I don't know. It's the same as like when we are in the middle school, we don't need to know what is going on somewhere in university, because our job is to come to the high school. So kind of make it to that level. So our job right now is to basically harmonize our first, second, third chakras to come to the fourth density. We will talk about it during this video, and I will do another video about this topic, because it's basically this is what is needed from us as humanity. And the fact of existing patriarchy is basically the complete unbalanced chaos of how to use these three centers, which we already kind of opened, all of them are imbalanced and not working right. And everything is, on my opinion, sits in the absolute non-balance of the feminine and masculine. And right now we will move on to the part connected to specifically Homo sapiens evolution, to understand what kind of maybe mistakes we did or something like that, so we would see the whole picture of how we actually managing with this transition from third density to the fourth density as like on the collective level. So when we start from kind of the beginning of the evolution, so million years ago, somewhere where first people, I don't want to, we cannot talk about this million years ago as something serious. Obviously something from different sources, whatever I was studying, some extraterrestrial interference took place. So, in my opinion, it's not exactly important how, why, all of that things, but for some specific reasons, our human consciousness, like Homo erectus, grew up to the Homo sapiens. So some say that it may be Anunnaki, some say it was, I even found it was maybe Martians or Maldek planet, which was existing between Mars and Jupiter. So right now they destroyed it and it's like an asteroid belt. So possibly they came. So like a lot of different options as to how the consciousness of humans kind of rose somewhere, maybe like 500,000 years ago approximately. But it doesn't really matter. I don't want to stop at this. You can research if you want. Everyone agree on one important thing, that there were two civilizations existed, Lemuria and Atlantis, just before the history which we officially know. And so I want to stop first of all on Lemuria. So that civilization, I attached map here for you, so you can see that by different resources, everyone says that it was like situated somewhere in the middle of Pacific Ocean. Almost everyone. Some say about the Indian Ocean. I don't think so. And so also that it's somehow connected to Hawaii or Eastern Islands, so something around that area. And this continent was called Mu. Another thing which we know about them is like also everyone would say that whatever you do research about Lemuria, they were living extremely like heart-centered, very huge feminine energy, right brain oriented, and very in harmony with everyone and everything, with nature, with plants, with animals, with ocean life. I mean, on my opinion, it was something like, according to different explanations, something like a paradise on Earth, something like utopia. Wonderful place for raising to the fourth consciousness, fourth density. And so I was asking myself, like, how could it happen that it didn't happen, like why they didn't evolve to that level and humanity just didn't ascend till fifth and so on. So like why we are still in this madness and why Atlantis even existed. And so the next part, what we know about Lemuria continent, which is in the Pacific Ocean, was destroyed by the movement of tectonic plates, plateaus, and something happened with poles, the change of the poles, and that made them to run away in a close by areas, and they mostly transitioned to the direction of Americas. And at this point, they, as as a population collectively, started to feel a lot of fear, because they understood that they are so much not in control, that their wonderful kind of peaceful wonderland can be destroyed very easily by natural forces. And so this point of fear are also found in many sources talking about Lemuria, that this is where humans found out about fear on such huge, deep, very, very subconscious level. And in my opinion, that could be the reason why that civilization kind of didn't evolve yet, but on the opposite, they actually attracted much worse circumstances, because the fear presence means that there is no trust, or not enough trust, that there is this point connected to safety and stability is still not formed yet, still not formed right in that point. And so if huge amount of fear exists in the society, it means this society is still not living in that level of harmony which is connected to the force density. And so the next, what happened with them, is actually kind of making it kind of sound like more sense. So they decided to relocate, and they were relocating in the direction of Americas, and also in the continent which existed more eastern. And I created a map here for you, like where approximately the kind of what was in the future the Atlantis civilization. That was somewhere around Bermuda Triangle and in that direction. So what they did, they didn't just relocate on this place. They were very right brain oriented creatures. In my opinion, they were wonderful about it, because they were so concerned about doing everything in harmony. So they actually knew about the kind of sacred geometry symbols. I will show you right now the symbol of the flower of life, which everyone knows. And the Drunvalo Melchizedek, in his book The Flower of Life, he basically created 2 books about this symbol, what it represents, and how it is actually the source of all creation. Like, it's kind of the representation of the seed of the creation. And to extract from this flower of life by sacred geometry, we can extract the tree. So it's like the symbol which is called the tree of life, which is the part of this specific symbol. So symbol is like, this flower of life is like a general explanation of existence, but the tree of life is like squeezed little particle which you can use as like a prototype or something like that. And so they used this sign, the tree of life, they put it on the island which we know as Atlantis, to create something like this society which is organized in a very harmonious way from one to another. This sign, this is actually invested from Kabbalistic knowledge. And before you say, oh no, I don't want to know anything from Hebrew, the thing is that the things connected to Hebrew religion, like, that came to them from Atlantis. And that Drunvalo Melchizedek, he just studied different teachings, and he found there that specific sign which was given to him from the Thoth, he channeled to know all of this story about the Lemuria and Atlantis. So the story which I'm telling you about this flower of life and the tree of life and the way they were representing it, that's exactly from his book and from his explanation. And so they created this 12 points 2 of them were in the sea, and the 10 of them were the vortexes, were supposed to be like settlement or the cities are built. And so when there was like thousands of years of operations they were doing it. So it's like all of this in the book. I mean, you can read it because it's super interesting how it was done. Very complex system, but if to say it short, they just created these vortexes. Each of them had like a representation of different kinds of energy. So they have different names. So this is kind of the energy centers, and the different kinds of energy is accumulated over there. And when they were activated, people from Lemuria who were elsewhere telepathically were connected, like they started to feel the signal from these vortexes that kind of they started to go in that direction to live there. And everyone was going in the direction of the vortex, which was the most connected to their own energy. And so what's interesting here is that all of this kind of the tree of life represent different types of energies. And 2 of them represent like more left brain orientation or masculine, very masculine orientation. And as Drunvalo Melchizedek explains that Lemuria was absolutely like kind of living very, very much in their feminine. So nobody came. So those vortexes were actually free for any other interference. And so as everyone, everything in the universe, nothing stays free when it's something like a void. The first vortex was occupied by, as Drunvalo explains in his book, by some Jewish from the future who didn't pass the exam. Some were on the 4th density, and so that's why they were sent back to kind of in the past to go through the lessons and experiences again. And when it comes to the second vortex, so these were Jewish came from the future and from the past according to the timeline of the planet Earth. There were creatures, according to the book, The Flower of Life, Martians who destroyed their planet a million years ago, and they were very they had huge technology. That's why they could fly away from the burning planet, but they needed somewhere to land. They needed somewhere to live. And so they had a technology on such a level that could look in the future, in the past, like in very, very far away. And so they found that there is a vortex, like the place, which is kind of a similar creatures as they are. And so, I mean, hominid. And so they chose to go in that direction. And so they are coming without asking for permission. And as Drunvalo claims in his book, it's very interesting because this book written, I guess, somewhere in 80s or in the early 90s. But what he says, the Lemurian civilization, those people who were living or building these vortexes, they were on the level of consciousness of the 12-year-old girl. This is the comparison he does. And the Martians who came, they were like a 50-60-year-old man who didn't, he was absolutely had no empathy. They came with absolute logical and power oriented, and the need for squeezing kind of what they want or fulfill their desires by any cost, because as Lemurians were so feminine energy oriented, they couldn't even destroy them or make them run away, because Lemurians were much more of them and they could easily fight and kill them, but they were not like that. And here we can make, like, before we start to hate Martians for all the problems we have, because yes, they started to go into the building hierarchical powers. I mean, they started to be all of those, kind of creating slavery, like making money as the center of the what is needed. I mean, they started to build all of these things which we are quite familiar right now. So we don't need to, like, it's very easy for us to understand what kind of systems were built, why small amount of people were actually controlling everything, how, like, not like from the heart center, but from the opposite, the desire for domination they were doing. So let's think. The fact that Lemurians attracted such civilization to come to them, it means Lemurians were obviously living not in a balanced way also, because Martians represent very huge developed masculine, not in a good way, because feminine was highly suppressed and very undervalued. And when feminine energy is undervalued, it means they use it. So they use their inspiration, the feelings. We will talk like a little bit later about the feminine energy, that it's actually about the everything, about like a foundation, the container, which is the reason of all our like actions, the root of all our actions. So they were obviously driven and obsessed by kind of getting pleasure and joy from the oppression. So they were using feminine energy inside of themselves, devaluing, disrespecting it at all. They didn't see any value in that. And so they are coming to the society which couldn't even defend themselves, the society which couldn't protect their boundaries and to establish such systems that these people would not have so much rights and stuff like that. So we can like think from this perspective is that possibly Lemurians were so concentrating on developing feminine energy that they kind of neglected the understanding of the importance of masculine. So possibly their masculine energy was not exactly developing because it forms under some, kind of pressure and different challenges. But when everything is in harmony, there is no possibility of masculine energy to evolve, because it's like when you are not solving problems, you are not aware of your own power of dealing with different things. When somebody, for example, solving it for you, you are at peace, feminine is fine. But masculine hasn't been developed. And when you are facing some huge experience, like for them, it was Martians came, they didn't have enough understanding on the collective level how to deal with such a huge force, which was actually the mirror of their undeveloped masculine. So they just attracted somebody who were like showing them how unbalanced everything can be when it's like an opposite way. And so it's just for us, I believe, when we think deeper about this concept, we can realize like how important all like two of these energies to develop simultaneously. And so here I want to come back to the part where fear appeared on the Lemurian civilization. And after that, of course, time has passed, but I believe that to overcome fear, a lot of actions should be done to the direction where you realize your own power. So you are not afraid of that things. And so maybe by Lemurians, those steps were not done. That's why they were attracting like a low energy counterpart, because the fear is a very low energy, and so they kind of like on the victim role without realizing how to use your power, because they never had any experiences to use it. They attracted an abuser who abused its power, and that's how they learn from each other that boundaries are important, like different challenges are important, standing for your, like raising your voice, showing your fire, being uncomfortable for others in order like to to balance forces. All of these things were the lessons for Lemurians. Simultaneously, Martians were supposed to be learning how to actually use your heart and to learn what empathy is. They were actually not doing any of that, and they were going to different directions. And so that society has become very, very much polarized. And here, what we can also know that Martians went really far. Edgar Cayce, in his book Atlantis, his son wrote a book about Atlantis. Edgar Cayce was reading the Akashic records and helping people to know something about their past lives. And so he said that many people from in the last century, he was somewhere like 100 years ago doing this. He said that many people who are living in the 20th century, they are all coming from like those souls who lived in Atlantis, and that's why their brains are so kind of like oriented on creation of technologies on different ways. Martians and in general Atlantis civilization, they were very much technologically advanced, but they were using different things. They were using crystals, vibration, they were using sounds. Their technologies were a little bit different, but still. One of the things which we want to know about the Martians, what they did, that's very interesting. I want to introduce to you the thing which is called Merkaba. And Drunvalo Melchizedek, who in his book The Flower of Life, he talks a lot about the sign. He's getting this from the knowledge of the thought, the creature he was getting all the messages from. So what he explains is that if we connect all of the elements, like the basic elements, we get the sign which is called Merkaba, and it means the rotation of feminine and masculine, the literal creation of everything. Because water and earth, they're looking downwards. This is something like a root. This is like what we are grounded at, and masculine energy is looking upwards. This is about the like direction of our energy. And so basically feminine and masculine, when they are interacting, this is how creation happens. I like the example, by the way, of the the fire which we see, for example, the wildfires. This is a play out of these four elements. It's like when air, masculine energy, influencing in chaotic way the fire which is on the dry earth, only water can stop this madness, otherwise everything will be destroyed. Like, think about it very deeply, that earth is a container, water is either keeping it dry or keeping it moist, and when it's a lot of wetness and it's not moving, nothing is happening, stagnation, because there is no flow in the mud waters. When there is no flow and no movement, there is no kind of transformation or development. And so they both need each other. Feminine and masculine energies, when they interact, they create like new different things, possibilities and stuff like that. And so it's like on the minimum, like little level, and also on the macro level. What Martians also did, why I told you about this symbol. Martians knew that they had enough technological advancement how to use these energies, and they decided to build their own, to create their own artificial Merkaba, which actually was against the law of creation. In general, it was very, very wrong thing to do, and nobody could stop them, unfortunately. And so they started to do that, and it led to the so it's like they turn different realms of the low vibrations, and low vibrational spirits started to come like chaotically onto the earth. And so after the flood and all of the collapse of Atlantis, this thing opened on the Atlantic Ocean, and on the bottom of Atlantic Ocean. And this is why in the Bermuda Triangle something is happening with, this parallel realities. So something is open there and still wasn't closed. And so they were living in a complete mess, according to abusing power, creating like slavery by Edgar Cayce. And so according to him, people were using Nazi people, they were calling them things. They were using them as something like objects for different things which they needed for. Everything what could be done terrible to the person from the different perspectives, this is how they were using people. It was really crazy, really bad. I didn't expect actually to know that from Atlantis from that perspective. Dolores Cannon also was saying that they misused their power and their technology very badly. So it was like very, very wrong things going on over there. So imagine all of this madness with abusing power, this Merkaba thing, people living in fear, in survival, with all of this weird thing connected to the low vibrational spirits, where by Drunvalo Melchizedek he said that they were literally just jumping into the people's souls. All of the things. Also, comet was flying around, and the asteroid which eventually hit the Earth in the place where Atlantis was, they knew it by their technology, they knew that it will happen eventually. Before that, it had different kind of pieces of it. And so these pieces were falling constantly in that region, destroying them, like all the time. And also, what happened that time that the poles changed again, the same as in Lemuria. And so this whole continent went kind of into the ocean. And so this flood happened, which then in all the religions remembered that something was like a flood. So that was that thing. And that happened 12,000 years ago, approximately 10,500 BCE. And on these dates, everyone who I studied say these same dates. So before this happened, ascendant masters from the Atlantis, they knew that it will all happen, and they came in different places on Earth, and they created pyramids. So to make a place, like pyramids were created for the raising of the consciousness. It was built such a way that when person is staying in some specific position, rays or like channels of concentrated energy had to supposed to influence the human or individual inside of the pyramid, and so it invokes the consciousness, and person goes to the astral realms, and his in general kind of like awakening is happening. And so that was creating different parts in the world as a net outside the Earth to kind of connect every to raise the consciousness in general. And also what they did in Egypt after Atlantis fell, different people in a very terrible conditions in all the ways possible started to come, mostly in Egypt, and they built different temples which they called the temples of beauty and sacrifice. So what I meant is that they were using these temples as places for healing. They were healing body, mind and soul, and they were using music, chanting, colors, different vibrations, rituals. They were doing all kinds of things to heal all of those madness what was going on over there before Atlantis fell. And also in that specific time also started to appear, you know, those Egyptians, kind of Egyptian gods, but that were actually very ascendant souls who were on another level of density. So they were coming, and people called them gods, but they were coming to help to raise consciousness as well. Like, because it was like a complete degradation which was happening in that specific time. And this is when we came to the official history, what is said, like what we know. At this point, I want you to think a little about this, you know, consequences of what we see with this situation where feminine and masculine were not developing and working properly, and they were not balanced at all. Like we can see by the fall of these civilizations, Lemuria and Atlantis, like what happens when these energies doesn't work in balance and in harmony. Regardless of if that was Martians who came and created all of this chaos, maybe it was not them, but it was those individuals who were in early Atlantis civilization, like building. Maybe there were individuals who were separated and growing into this direction of, you know, kind of left brain orientation. We don't know. It actually doesn't matter. So what I'm trying to say is that one way or another is, if one energy is overworking, one energy is not working properly, on my opinion, this is undervalue, lack of value of some energy, lack of respect to some energy, lack of understanding of importance of this energy. This is what leads to very huge consequences, which we could see by the example of these two fallen civilizations. And now we are coming to the place. I want you to see again this